Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reiki Rays Global Healing Summit. My name is Yolanda, and today we are here with the fantastic Torsten Lange. Torsten, I want to thank you first for taking time to have this conversation with us today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. I'm so happy to be part of the Reiki Race family.
Yes, I know it's so incredible that we get to do this every year. And I'm excited about the topic. So, you are going to talk to us today about Reiki and consciousness. But before we dive in, just want to make sure everyone knows a bit about you and your background. So, Torsten Lang is a Reiki master and founder and director of the Reiki Academy London. And having obtained a degree in political sciences and art history from Hamburg University, he spent 15 years on a career in business and politics. Torsten went on to build a successful chain of retail outlets in his native Germany. Then in 1999, he moved to London to pursue his dream, opening an international flagship store on London's famous Regent Street. After 4 years of struggle, Torsten lost everything almost overnight and spent the next 7 years slowly rebuilding his life. He started to study various spiritual paths, gradually realizing that their essence is always the same. But through his Reiki courses, Torsten learned that many people have profoundly unsettling experiences in their lives and feels privileged to be able to share his understanding and enthusiasm for Reiki in his courses and workshops. Among his students, he is known for his thorough knowledge, personal approach, and relaxing sense of humor. And today, we get to explore with Torsten all about Reiki and consciousness. So, again, welcome, Torsten.
Oh, thank you so much. I had no idea that you had such a long bio. It fills about half of the podcast.
Well, listen, you have done a lot. It's all very interesting, to be quite honest. So, I wanted to start out with asking you about this idea, with Reiki and consciousness. And I think you are very well known for um, exploring the scientific aspects of Reiki. So, could you talk a little bit about one, what drew you in so much into the scientific, and then how this consciousness aspect started to come online for you?
I think it really started with my experience that Reiki is amazing. It does so much. It helps us in various ways, from physical healing to a deeper understanding to being scientifically provable. And yet, even people who learn Reiki still get ill.
Mm.
And even people who receive Reiki treatments, it helps a lot, but they still have all sorts of problems. So ultimately, I think my starting point was the question, why is there so much suffering? Why are there so many problems? And why can we use such a beautiful tool or path like Reiki and we still do struggle and
Right.
struggle a lot? Probably partially to do also with my path and long periods of waiting for things to work out. Of course, COVID was this huge interruption and time to reflect, but also time to wonder why again such disasters happen.
Right.
And it basically took me closer to an understanding of the entire setup of the universe. So it's somehow the suffering is part of the universe. So why is it part of the universe? Why do we struggle? Why do we believe that we often have to go through difficult times in order to develop? Why can't it any other day? And I started to wonder where this idea for the universe is coming from. And this is where how I kind of slowly got into the topic of consciousness as the guiding force, as basically what's in everything. So when I talk about consciousness, it's not about being conscious of, like I'm being conscious that I'm being filmed, or I'm being conscious that my neighbor is going through a difficult time, or something like that.
Right.
But it is a deeper consciousness, the aspect, well, whether we call it the collective consciousness, divine consciousness, basically the idea that there is something in everything. And we'll go deeper into that. Hope that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yes, no, it does. And I have to tell you, Torsten, one of the things that comes to mind right away is, sometimes I will think, especially when the history of Reiki comes up and we hear how Yusui Sensei passed away or how Mrs. Takata passed away. And I always think to myself, I wonder if people wonder how is it that, this happened when they
Mhm.
were so connected to something like Reiki. But one of my thoughts too, I was curious about, well, the level of stress that was going on, especially in Yasui Sensei's time, like literally what was going on in Japan at that time. And I was thinking about that dance between, even if you are, so deeply enmeshed in your practice, how the effects of whatever is being held in consciousness may still exist, right? So it sounds like you pointing at this in some way, that our healing is layered, but looking at then what is in the entire field, especially this idea of suffering.
Yeah.
So what did you come up with? Like, did you come up with a like why
Well,
the suffering is there?
it was a bit of a journey, and I think I just kind of want to tell you just a little bit of the journey and the answers I got, and
Yes.
then how this deepened my experience of Reiki, not just my understanding, but really my experience. And that was a breakthrough I still can't quite believe, because when I now use Reiki, it feels like I'm working on a different wavelength. It's just
Yeah.
incredible. But coming back to Mikao Usui, that's really interesting. I remember my mom shocked her Reiki teacher completely when she went to a Reiki 1 course and he was talking about the history of Reiki. And she was sitting there thinking, so the founder of Reiki died 4 years after you found Reiki. Why is that possible if it's a healing modality? And he had absolutely no answer.
Right.
I often answer that in terms of, or I used to, in terms of Mikao Sui brought more in the world in these 4 years than most people in several lifetimes.
Right.
And he obviously fulfilled his duty. But yeah, it is a question. It's also a question how we measure quality of life, whether we measure it in terms of length or in terms of depth and insight and sharing. But it's lots of things, and I think it's just normal to have these questions, and we
Right.
need to be able to answer them up to like these really, really big questions. I think it started with thinking about COVID. And during that time, or after COVID, I was invited to give a talk in London. Why did the world have COVID?
Right.
And this really could have ruined this platform if I had come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories or whatever. But
Right.
there was a very simple answer. We wanted to experience it
Mm.
collectively. And I think this is ultimately at the core of everything. We want to experience it. And I know it sounds shocking to tell that a cancer patient that they wanted to experience it, but on a certain level, we want to experience that, knowing that we are eternal beings. We are eternal souls. And no matter what we are experiencing, it cannot harm us on the soul level. So it's an experience only. The problem is, it is a really difficult experience.
Right.
And when I was starting to work on that, my last book, The Reiki Revolution, that I published last year, when I worked on that, I had this moment where I just got this like channeling down about 7 um, levels of existing in the universe. The seventh being the absolute divine everything, all that is. But then comes the creation of the universe. And the sixth level is the idea, the structure of the universe, the laws, how this is all kind of set up, and what we want to experience, and basically building a framework. The sixth level is no, that's the sixth level. The fifth level is the big archetypal forces. Um, Exploration, a bit like the Jungian archetypes, exploration and wanting to feel love and harmony, and wanting to reform and change something, and uh, wanting safety, lots of kind of things, different kind of um, aspects that we all have in our personality. And then this kind of works out on the fourth level in individual shape. And the individual shape is an energetic shape on the fourth level, which often we call like the spirit realm or even heaven, where we come from, jumping into this physical form and where we go back to. Then the third level is the level of form, where we are now experiencing in this physical shape. The second level is the level of organic nature. And the first level is inorganic nature, the rocks, minerals, crystals, like the mass.
Yes.
And this is designed, this is my understanding, to experience aspects of our divine self. Being that we are everything, we are everything. So, in order to experience aspects, gain experiences, we need to construct limitations. And this is particularly poignant on the third level, where everything is in physical shape. That means we can't normally be in two places at the same time. With Reiki, we can when we send a Reiki distant treatment. So this really kind of helps, shows us how powerful Reiki is. But we want to learn certain aspects, experience what it means only part and not everything. So in sometimes we are a bit slow in our intellectual understanding, slow learners. Some people have physical inabilities. Other people can do one thing particularly good and one thing not very good. So we all have this kind of different combination of abilities and things we struggle with, and this shapes the physical experience. And then we have feelings, and feelings help us to really experience. And goes all the levels to the seventh level, the absolute kind of divine essence, to have these experiences. And given that none of what is created can, by definition, be outside everything that is, the divine is in everything, and that is the consciousness. So my idea, my understanding is that we created these experiences, or the framework for the experiences, in order to have the experiences we had. And we had, over the last hundreds of thousands of years, experiences of rise and of failure, of love and of rejection, of wars, of famine, of everything, of accidents, of natural disasters. And the question is whether we've had enough of that. And
Wow.
if I feel, if we collectively at some stage come to the point to realize, well, it didn't really get us anywhere. It was just experiences. But why don't we change that and now experience the positive, and learn and develop through love and to understanding and through connection? And I think this is what we can do. But in order to do that, we need to get to the level of consciousness. Consciousness is really observing everything. But once we are on this level, we can bring fundamental change to not our lives, but to the entire world. But we need to step into consciousness. We really need to take the step and realize our power, that we don't just have consciousness, but we are
We
consciousness,
are.
and we are connected to all consciousness. And this is where I feel Reiki can help us. Well, that was a long answer.
Yeah, but it was incredible because, like, first of all, I have to say, one of the things speaking to you reminds me of something that was actually in your bio that has always rung true for me. I've studied many modalities and philosophies, and they all seem to point back to the same things. And a lot of what you shared, it reminded me so much of like a bit of Gnosticism, but then also some of the Tree of Life, some of the
Mhm.
teachings within that. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. But also, with what you're saying, it brings to mind, Torsten, the whole idea of if we can have more of an acceptance that we really aren't separate from anything, that we really are in this
Mhm.
sea of all consciousness, and accepting the idea that, yeah, we may not fully understand it um, intellectually, but on a soul level, we do create different types of experiences to learn. It just, the acceptance keeps screaming at me about what you
Mm.
said. Like, if we can accept it more, then we stop being in resistance to why we're even here and the potential of what the understanding can open us up to. But another thing of what you said is so fascinating to me is that we don't have to keep in the collective consciousness this idea that learning and evolution has to be through the lens of struggle, that there's other options,
Yeah.
because really
But
there's
that is this
all
deeply held subconscious belief. We have to struggle. To a certain degree, we deserve punishment.
right.
And because we feel we have so many limitations
Mm.
that we don't believe we basically earn to just be happy, be
Right.
connected, be loved.
And it brings to mind too just the basic idea. I think a lot of us hold the idea of healing means something's wrong, either wrong
Mhm.
with us or wrong with the world, whatever it is. The wrongness is there.
Yeah.
But again, what you're saying kind of spins all of this on its head. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have to ask you about this. So, COVID happens, you're given a lecture on the other side. Why did it happen? When you reflect on even just say personal experiences that you've had that may have been challenging, is part of it for you that you can see the gift of what it was, even if you really didn't like it? Is that part of how we can?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I definitely see how I changed for the better
Mhm.
through suffering. And yet I just don't feel it is necessary.
Right.
But we collectively feel we have to suffer. That is, it's just this idea. And in order to change that, I feel we need to experience what it is like to bring such fundamental change and to really be on a level where we just feel complete. And ultimately, this is not the spirit level, it is the level of divine consciousness. It is the ultimate consciousness, just being in this level. And my understanding is, or my experience is, that through Reiki, step by step, we open up. And there is a reason why it was designed as a system, because a system allows us to take a journey within it.
Mm.
We start with healing hands and we're excited and we use them for ourselves and on others. Then we start getting the symbols and realizing they are shortcuts to different vibrational levels. And we can deepen the physical healing, we can deepen the intuition and guidance aspect, and we start opening our heart and we connect with other people. We can send even a distance treatment. So these different vibration levels, but there is a fourth level. And I had for so long worked with these three levels that I didn't realize that Reiki mastery really allows us to understand that consciousness is in everything and that we can work on the level of consciousness and we can change in unbelievably profound ways. And the kind of universal synonym for this is light, being enlightened. And of course, somebody who is enlightened is in the state of being conscious, of being just aware of their divine being. And this is why Mikao Usui came up with the master symbol, that he basically showed his master students, say, this is where it's going. This is the ultimate goal, to be one with the truth, the light, the essence of the universe. And working with the master symbol, which basically stands, and the mantra stands for the great bright light, is something that I hadn't really done. I used it primarily for attunements, sometimes in meditation, but it's something that I felt was almost confined to being used in a master course and then when you give attunements to other people. But
Yeah.
we can use it for healing and we can really connect to the light and bring the light down. And this is something that was channeled while I was working on my online Reiki master training.
Mm.
And I just couldn't believe it. How it changed the way I was using Reiki. It's still Reiki, but
Right.
it's just deeper, higher, brighter. It's at times I was just, or I am just sitting there thinking, I don't really want to come back. I just want to stay in this light. So the challenge is then to bring the light into the rest of the world. But I feel the more people we reach with this experience of feeling the light within and of realizing not light we can bring in light or we can connect with the light, but we are this light and we can just be it and radiate. This is incredible. And I really feel this is where Reiki mastery wants to take us.
Yeah.
And I use the master symbol to go on a meditative journey through all these different levels and look at these different levels. The first, the second level. Interestingly, what I was told, the third level, or the level of form, of being a spirit in a body, also includes animals.
Mm.
It's the same level, it's just a slightly different kind of experience. But I thought it was absolutely fascinating not to have animals put in the category of organic nature. That is the plants, soil, water, but of us. So we're just kind of different shapes of consciousness.
Well, I have to ask you this, Torsten. So, with everything you're saying, do you think or do you look at it in a way of like that Reiki helps us to evolve in consciousness, but do you feel or sense in your experimenting with all of this that there is literally like a Reiki consciousness? Like there is a pulse or a frequency, a texture of not just the energy we think we're working with, but
Mm-hmm.
literally how it may help to shape us and our consciousness, which would lead to what you were talking about earlier, like not having to necessarily learn through suffering, but to learn through a different lens.
Um, so I do think that Reiki is different from other experiences.
Mm,
But I think this is more in the way we feel it, not in the ultimate goal.
right.
But it is a very particular path. And with the symbols, with the way Mikao Usui designed it, I feel it is just kind of, it's one path, even though there are many paths
Yeah.
leading to this very light, to the very top. But I think
Yeah.
it's very clear path. And within this, there is a certain kind of consciousness I feel. It
Mhm.
really, I have to think about that because I didn't think about that before. Um, whether there is a certain connection to Mikao Usui in this consciousness, and part of his connection is in the system, and this is what kind of holds it together and feels it. Because I feel him so strongly. Often I feel him as a spirit guide, and sometimes I write or do something, and I just wait for a moment, and I hear it's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just fascinating. Or go in a different direction.
Yes.
But it's so I do very much feel that this is maybe what can is the closest to saying there's some kind of Reiki consciousness, because I feel it is it is a particular way. But it's interesting here in LA. I've been to the Self Realization Foundation a
Oh,
number of
yes.
times, Paramahansa Yogananda, and that is very fascinating. And it feels the approach feels a little bit different, and you feel the spirit of the founder of this tradition, and yet it is going in exactly the same direction. So
Yeah.
there are various paths, and but there is a bit of individual deep consciousness in there as well.
Right.
Ultimately, ways, pathways to opening up to the divine consciousness. And of course, even if we sit in this light and if we feel the connection, there are still so many levels and so many layers. There is so much in the universe that we do not know, that we do not understand. But I do feel that suffering is not restricted to the three-dimensional level.
Yes.
And when we look at sci-fi, some of that is based on channeled information. It's really quite fascinating, and see what's going on, all the wars, fights, whatever in the universe. I don't think it's our imagination or projection. I think that the element of struggle, of rivalry, of exploration, um, and subsequently of guilt and of trying to make up for it, or being so guilt-ridden and fearful that we get even worse than we were before. All that I feel is in a wider sphere of the universe. And I think if we, on this relatively secluded level of this planet, if we can get it in a human shape, the change done, and realize, okay, let's start a new age, an era of happiness, of connectedness, of sharing, knowing that there is enough. We always think out of scarcity, but scarcity is artificial. There is enough. This is scientific, that there is enough food for everybody on this planet.
Right.
We just need to distribute it properly. And we can change and do so much. So if we really work that, if we even bring that in the political or societal arena and say, okay, well, we can build a new society based on that. And just looking at what's happening in the political world and how everything is kind of based on attacking the other side rather than thinking, okay, well, we've got a problem. Let's just sit together and see how we can come up with a solution that really works for this problem for everybody. And I think it's possible. But I think when we do that, we can change not just future of humanity, of humankind, but indeed it has repercussions on the entire universe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think this is something that Mikao Usui felt. He said something like, this can work in society. It's not just a complementary therapy, but with the earthquake, when he started with Reiki and so on, he was very much focusing on uh, physical healing and individual personal development. But I sensed, well, I actually got a very clear message saying, though, if he had been here longer, coming back to our starting point, he would have gone into the connect into the direction of deepening, working with the master symbol, bringing in the light.
Yeah, I love that you say that. I say that all the time. I'm like, we don't know where he would have taken this or where Reiki would have gone had he lived longer. So I love it, excites me that, people like you will go deeper into practice and really trust how Reiki opens you up and what it opens you up to, recognizing. Just as a side note, Torsten, if you ever come to San Diego, the SRF meditation garden down here in Encinitas, gorgeous, overlooks the ocean.
So I heard,
Yes,
and I'm
it's
going there.
gorgeous. But I wanted to ask you this too, because I know I really want to get into this program that you've created about stepping into consciousness so that we can have the direct experience ourselves and understand this more deeply. But before we get into that particularly, I want to ask you, just for some people where we hear consciousness a lot and it may sound, I don't know, like something kind of elusive to some people, like what
Mhm.
is this exactly? Is there a way that you picture it? You know what I like, like if I think of, oh, if I'm stuck in the consciousness of fear, it may feel or look like something to me versus when I intend to direct my mind to, Reiki or higher intelligence, right? And we hear so much of in the system of Reiki, directing the mind, directing the mind. Could you talk about how that can link to like the levels of consciousness we're working from? Does that have a look or feel for you?
Um,
How do you
I'm not so
explain
sure
it?
if I would say I give it a look, but one image is I could just have a thought, and then I realize I have a thought. So at the moment, I'm thinking of how I look on the camera. So I have this thought, and while I'm thinking the thought, at the same time, I can become aware that I am thinking the thought.
Mhm.
So there is the thought and the thinker.
Yes.
And this for me is some kind of an idea of how conscious works, that it is the observer. And we are constantly observing everything that's happening around us, and we're observing ourselves. but we can observe ourselves on a deeper level, our feelings, our thoughts, and so on. But I feel the space in between breathing, once we become aware of this space, this is getting quite close to getting a feeling of consciousness. So just taking a deep breath in, holding the breath, and then breathing out. And when you breathe in and just hold the breath, in this moment, something expands. Well, this is how it works for me. And I
Right.
just sit there and think, oh, I'm kind of somewhere else. And I think this is a way to experience that. But then, yeah, we can go deeper, really working with Reiki, working with the master symbol there. And I don't want to sound elitist, but this is really what Reiki Mastery is designed to take this step. Everybody can experience consciousness, but to work on the level of consciousness, this requires a journey. And we can really get there with Reiki and then working with the master symbol and working on this level. I think just yeah, for me, it's a different level of Reiki without stretching the or adding something to the system of Reiki. It's still within Reiki, and it feels Reiki, but suddenly you feel like it's really not just Reiki. It's like everything. It's just this
Yeah.
incredible level of just being conscious.
Beautiful. So could you tell us a bit about this? You have created this program,
Mhm.
Stepping into Consciousness. And as we get into this a little more, could you say, I would assume that if you're working with the master symbol, is this course for people who have already taken Reiki master level, or is this something you can come in at any level?
It's both. It's for people who have learned uh, trained to the master level already and who may
Mhm.
already teach. And they can go deeper, but it's also for people who've done Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. But that
Okay.
is the um, um, that's the basis, Reiki 1 and
Yes.
Reiki 2, and then you can step into there. But I feel the more we do that and the longer we work on this level, the deeper we can go. So it really is very much a journey.
Yes.
And it's meditating with the master symbol, it's really understanding it, it's bringing in this light and helping us to go on a journey to make these connections. And then we can just, once we are kind of connected to the consciousness, we can we can change things, we can change our experience. And I feel that the level of experience in a Reiki treatment is a bit deeper. And I think it kind of also fills, and I said that initially already, almost a bit like a gap, because I
Mhm.
know a lot of Reiki masters who are just excited after Reiki 1, excited after Reiki 2, and then after the master level think, oh, okay, that's it. Yeah. So now I can give attunements, but often the kind of big step is missing in the course. And the step then often happens over the course of the following year. And when we look back a year later, we realize how much we have changed on that level. So Reiki works, but it's very much work in progress. Whilst when we really jump in working with the master symbol, we have this enlightenment effect, this just open up effect. And I think it's really, really powerful. And yeah, this is how it works for me when I work with this, and this is what I'm sharing in this course. I've done a free masterclass that where I share a little bit more about what it means to be a Reiki master, because then obviously a Reiki master also is a Reiki teacher. How do you teach Reiki? Why do you teach Reiki? Are you um, ready to teach Reiki, sensing inside and thinking, okay, I can do it. I just need the thorough knowledge and the techniques and so on. It's so beautiful to be a Reiki master and teacher, I find, because this is really how we can change the world,
Yeah.
passing it on.
Yes. And I mean, it's so many things come to mind. One of like how all of these practices, including Reiki for me, always points back to mind. I mean, it's like at the foundation of everything, our mind, our
Mm.
consciousness, because it affects everything else outward. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about this too, because you did mention in the beginning how it's typically taught, and a lot of people only work with the master symbol, say maybe in attunements and things like this. want to have a personal question for you, but I also want to know more about this. So, just for you personally, when you have these insights and, just this knowing that comes, do you ever kind of dance back and forth with, should I share this? How am I going to share it? Or is it such a truth for you that you're excited to share like these extensive teachings?
Mm. To be honest, it felt so overwhelming. I really wanted to share it straight away.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
first point of call is always my mom. I get her on the phone and say, "You wouldn't believe what just happened," and then I tell her.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah. I definitely want to share it. Sometimes I'm a bit hesitant how it comes across when I say this was channeled, this is what I got, this just
Oh,
kind of happened. I felt like a spirit guide telling me, but then I honestly feel there are so many people who have similar experiences
right.
that we have a thought and we just realize it's not coming from us.
Hmm.
And I just also try to always be very respectful, almost overly respectful to the system of Reiki. So initially it really restricted me because I felt I just wanted to find the pure system of Reiki, how it was originally done and taught. And once we're in the system, of course, we start using it, and then we need to allow to
Right.
expand, and we
Yeah.
need to just allow it to work. And for some people, it works the way that it's just a start, and they become psychic mediums, or they go into astrology, or they go into other fields of complementary therapies, and it just kind of takes them in certain directions.
Hmm.
And uh, for some people, it's very, very much I stay in this structure and safety that the system of Reiki gives us, and that's what I do. But then, of course, with every treatment, we sense something, we get some ideas what's going on, and the more we follow up on the feedback, the more we just open up to being much more intuitive.
Yes. Okay. So then the less personal side of this, so curious about because it really does sound like it reminds me of relationship building, right? And I remember when I first took Reiki classes, the way that the symbols were shared with me, it just kind of seemed like, I don't know, these things you draw, you use, or they just didn't. mm, I don't know how to explain it. They just felt flat. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way to say. And then as I went on and practiced, it felt like there was an energy or a conscious, there was more, these symbols were more dynamic. And
Mm-hmm.
then going on to study with other teachers as well, that all started to make more sense in these things. So I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, even with your focus on the master symbol in this and the relationship to consciousness, do you feel that that came because of the level of relationship that you were nurturing to this energy? Like, were you kind of sitting with it and bathing in
I
it?
I think so,
Yeah.
yes. And particularly this journey of working with the Reiki second level symbols. I think they are just so incredible. And initially, I thought it was slightly frightening. Just the idea that you can draw something and you can feel something. And I
Yes.
thought, okay, so a lot of people uh, um, came up with this idea that therefore you must not share the symbols freely. They mustn't get into the wrong hands. Otherwise, people may do something that's not positive with them or so. So I completely trust that everything we do within Reiki is always positive, and we cannot abuse it.
Mhm.
Um, the symbols, if somebody's not attuned to using them, they will very likely not feel anything. And if so, maybe they feel a little bit of Reiki and think, oh, that's strange what I feel here. But ultimately, the things, it's not about the symbols. The symbols do not have power or energy. They are door openers to the energy. So it
Mhm.
is just when we look at them, when we draw it, when we repeat the mantra, it takes us into a particular vibration level on which Reiki works. So it's automatically a connection to Reiki and to this particular vibrational level. And we can even do that without the symbols, but the symbols make it just so much easier and more experiential. And this is my understanding why they've been in there. So I used symbols, but it's not that I care too much about them. I just quickly draw them and then I just experience, just being in this energy and being in and using this energetic vibration. So when I give somebody Reiki treatment for a physical problem, I always use the power symbol and feel this is really strong. Sometimes I repeat it several times. And when I feel it's more to do with, say, a relationship problem or something emotional, then I may do the harmony symbol. I may feel that they should work on the relationship, and then I add the connection symbol as well. So just to bring these kind of different vibrations in there. And of course, they correspond also with chakras. And that's just something I was once rather rudely told off for, to mention the chakras with together with Reiki, because they were not part of the original Reiki teachings. But of course, we have a chakra system, and Reiki works with the chakra system. It's just that they focus with the symbols on like three main like chakras that kind of stand for the lower chakras, the upper chakras, and the heart chakras. That's my understanding. But ultimately, the chakras are energy centers, and the tanden points that the symbols refer to are energy centers, and they're basically the same.
Yeah. Well, I have to kind of loop it back around. One, for a couple of reasons, but one, it's coming back to mind what you said even in the beginning of this conversation, right? And this whole idea of even us being able to accept and understand the different things that we may encounter in this lifetime, and how that also can tie into somehow more of an acceptance of not just our healing, but our processes of healing, and how that can have many different faces, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be in the lane of suffering. So I wanted to ask you that with this, with working with the master symbol, has it changed your idea or perspective or understanding of healing overall, what that means for us? And just again, like that understanding of why we're here. So not just down to a session level, but the collective.
Mm-hmm. First of all, yes, I think a lot of our experiences here are based on previous lifetimes,
Yeah.
on things we wanted to explore and learn. So we are kind of still stuck in this cycle. And I think eventually we can opt out of this idea of suffering. But very much at the moment, we are still in it. And the more we open up to the light, I feel the less we need it.
Yeah.
And yet, going through times of frustration, waiting, things not working out, relationship breaking up. All since I've started working more deeply with a master symbol,
Yeah.
I'm very much in this space of, okay, there are lots of challenges. It is very, very difficult. But then I do bring myself back up to the point when I'm going through a difficult time, that I just remind myself to feel the connection and the peace. And I'm both. I am in this difficult situation, but at the same time, I feel I'm connected and I kind of rise above, and things will work out. So I kind of trust in that. Um, yeah, I think we learn a lot from the difficulties we go through. But at some stage, when we realize we've done that so many times and we've been here so many times, the question is whether we can really step into this level and say, okay, now it's time to change.
Yeah.
But I think we can only do that collectively. I mean, we suffer collectively as well. We suffer as an ethnic group, as a religion, as a gender, well, primarily
Yeah.
women, as a nation. So it's really interesting, and the suffering is just on so many levels. So once we understand that this can be changed, once we lose the fear, and once we step into love and consciousness, ultimately, I would say is love, because there is no fear in consciousness. There's only interconnectedness. It's the realization that everything is one, and oneness is love. So what we experience as love, from romantic love to just loving something or just feeling love always is connected to the original love that is that everything is one.
Wow.
And I think we can really step more into that. And
Yeah.
so many things we are talking about kind of simultaneously in a way. I
Yeah.
hope that kind of still gives like a bigger picture. But I do feel that Reiki gives this structure and a certain routine, a set structure, a ritual. So can really, I feel, be very helpful for the daily, like getting through daily life, through normal life. So I start every morning with half an hour of Reiki for myself, and then a number of times during the day I do an exercise. I don't know if it's okay. I would just like to share that quickly.
Yes,
It's
please.
really nice. I just stand or sit, doesn't matter, and I just become aware of my body and feel the connection to this planet, to the level of form. I'm a physical being, and just completely be physical. And then I bring my awareness to my third eye and just kind of open up and realize, okay, and I'm connected. There are higher vibrations. I can get ideas. I have emotions. I have a mind. There's more to me. Then I bring my awareness to my heart and kind of open my heart and feel the love and the connection with everything that's around me. And in the end, and that is something that is new and started with working on this master level, I open my crown chakra and just feel divine consciousness and just being with everything, in everything, being uh, not just part of the universe, but being the universe. It's difficult to describe, just being everything, really expanding. And that's what I do several times just to kind of remind myself that I am simultaneously existing on these different vibration levels.
I have to ask you, Torsten, just for all of us, really, like, how could you talk a little bit about how this has helped you, this realization, this understanding in like your practical day to day? And I ask it because even with what you just described, I think a lot of times we tend to, in our minds, separate our connection to all and then put our connection to self in like a separate box. But, that description you just gave, I'm like, wow. So what does that make it like when you walk out into the day? Like what is it? How does it directly impact your personal experience on this planet?
Um, it kind of it reminds me in difficult situations that there is more to the situation,
Mm,
that I can learn something, or I often react to people who are noisy, where I kind of think, what's that? That's annoying, that's disturbing, or so. And then to bring me back to realizing, okay, don't know where they are at the moment, but no matter how loud they are spirits in the body, and
yeah.
and just kind of feel a different connection. I've been thinking a lot about politics and international relations recently, and you can do a lot for a country. And often when we talk about politics, we talk about how to kind of bring a nation together,
Mhm.
but that's not enough.
Right.
The whole world needs to be one nation or seen as one, because we are, well, no matter how different we are and see things, we the consciousness is in everything, and we are all expressions of the same. And I feel this can change so much. So I'm really working on myself a lot, reading the news and then trying to understand the news. And first with my career in politics earlier, and studying political sciences, I think very much like this is right, this is wrong. And then I need to remind myself, okay, there are different viewpoints,
Right.
and there are um, different personalities and different national personalities. So
Yeah.
one nation is different from another nation. There's
Right.
so many levels of experience, but in all of that is consciousness, and everybody needs to be treated with this respect and love that comes out of this realization. And I think, but as a starting point, we need to treat ourselves
Yes.
like that.
Well, Well,
as
then
well.
your program is very timely because very timely, even with what you just shared. I mean, obviously, there is always every day something going on in the world and just so much going on. But by the time this summit airs, there will be a lot going on here in the United States as well. So yeah, I really do appreciate. I think always talking to you is so thought-provoking. Watching your YouTube channel, anything that you provide, you are very thought-provoking. And I just want to ask for people who are wondering, like, I know that you said as long as, we've done Reiki level 1, level 2, but who would you say this is for? Like, is it for people who are wanting to go into deeper levels of healing, wanting to work on their perspective?
It's basically for everything. So I don't, possibly because I haven't trained that way, but I don't really split the master level in master practitioner and teacher because I feel mastery really should bring everything together. So there is a step-by-step guide how to give attunements and why you give attunements. And so you can really learn how to do that, how to teach all the foundations of Reiki, the history, and every single exercise that was in the original system of Reiki and all that. So it's very kind of comprehensive as an overview. For those who want to become a Reiki master and teacher, this is like everything in one place. For those who learned that already and are Reiki masters, I feel it's good to sometimes also look at something from a different perspective and see different aspects. And of course, some traditions are very clearly structured. And it's so this is how my teacher taught me, and that teacher was taught by their teacher, and so on. It's like very strict, even to the examples that are given. Is pretty much it's very clear, and others are extremely open and bring all sorts of other ideas, spiritual ideas, sometimes even other healing modalities in there. And I think it's good to learn from different people. So my idea is also to just kind of share what well my understanding of Reiki mastery and basically Reiki generally as a system. But I call it the Reiki Science Master Training because there is a lot of science aspect in there. My research with this laboratory in Switzerland on water and how Reiki changes water and how the different symbols have a different impact, just kind of like yeah, sharing that the master symbol basically has everything all in one, the
Yeah.
complete physical healing and the largest crystals and the connections. So everything is there when you use the master symbol in there. And it's interesting that that didn't inspire me before to use the master symbol in a healing session. So that's really it's an interesting journey. Just thought it's just coming. So it took for me a while to really understand it and to get to this point where I felt, well, now I've understood it. Now I can share it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there is this kind of new level of working in different ways with a master symbol that I feel is for everybody, no matter whether they are new Reiki masters or have worked on this level for a long time. But to a certain degree, I don't think anybody can say, I've really understood Reiki.
Yeah.
So there's always more we can learn. We can learn from other people, from other teachers, from their experiences. And once we bring that into our Reiki practice, we can just deepen the way we do it. And this is then our Reiki, the way we share it, we teach it, we practice it. And I think that is so amazing that everybody can learn it, and yet it slightly feels different for everybody. And how we use it and when we use it is just a very personal thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have that blend of, to me, like from the outside looking in at you and your work and all that you share, it seems very much you have that anchoring, that rooting in what is very traditional, but you also allow for that expansiveness of possibility and how much further we may be able to go. And so that's incredible. I'm just thinking, people listening to this right now might be like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of you could work with that symbol and
Yeah.
another way. Yeah.
There's
So,
something interesting about calligraphy in Japan. A student of calligraphy, which basically is a spiritual tradition, and the idea to bring energy onto the paper when you draw it. and make other people feel it when they look at it. And they copy every single stroke so that it is impossible to distinguish what a student has done from the master. This is their way of learning it. And once they mastered exactly how to do it, they make deliberate mistakes.
Mm.
And these mistakes change the energy, point certain things out, and make it their own. But they can only do that at the master level. So I feel this is a little bit what we do in Reiki as well, like really learning it properly the way it was designed. And once we are at this level where we feel, okay, now I'm doing it this way, I'm doing it this way. And this is amazing. And that is a very individual thing how we use it then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is a interesting thing because, like, one, I think a lot of us at some point anyway do have this quest to understand the more traditional, like what really, to have a deeper understanding of the origins of the system. But then again, if you do allow yourself this openness, I mean, look at these incredible insights and experiences that may come. And all of us are very fortunate because you have a generous offer for us. So, the Stepping into Consciousness course, there is a link below where you can get 50% off the course, but we also will have the link to your free masterclass online. So, yeah, you know, I think anyone who knows of you can say thank you for everything that you share with the community.
Well, it's
Uh,
so fabulous to be here. It is really it's our community, and this is just wonderful.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I'm so curious about all of the questions I'm sure you're going to get flooding in after this conversation. So, Torsten, thank you for taking time to have this conversation again. Again, the links are below for the offers and everything that you have, as well as how to connect with Torsten in general, all of his work. And we hope that you all have an incredible day.
Thank you so much for having me.